Have you ever stared at a blank screen, wondering what on earth to write or post next with your content? Maybe you're feeling overwhelmed by all the content you need to create or just uninspired. What if I told you that AI could be the answer to spark ideas, save you time, and make content creation easier without sacrificing your authenticity? Now, we all know that an AI generated piece of content can sound, well, robotic, really, and kind of disingenuous. And for you, my beautiful, big hearted entrepreneur, I know that this just does not align with you and the way you want to be in this world. So you give AI a go because everyone tells you to, that's what you should be doing, but you throw your hands up in the air and walk away from it when it just does not sound like you. Whilst I don't believe that AI should or even could replace your creativity, you can use it in a way to support you authentically, to take the pressure off, and to give you more time for what matters most in your business and life. Now, I talk about being more you a lot and bringing this to your content. So, using a tool like AI can sound like I'm contradicting myself here. How can you possibly use a system to being more you? Well, there's plenty of ways you can bring the two together, and I'll show you how in this episode. Welcome to the Powerful Content Podcast, your go-to source for content creation, strategy, and business inspiration. I'm your host, Mel Daniels, content strategist, coach, and speaker, empowering women across the globe to grow their business with powerful content that connects, nurtures, and converts. So, if you're ready to create standout content that gets you noticed and remembered, or build an aligned audience who love you and are ready to buy from you, you're in the right place. I believe that content has the power to connect us all. It's up to you how you use it. Listen in for genuine and insightful chats with guests, as well as practical tools and strategies from me. It's so lovely to have you here. Let's dive into the show. I acknowledge the Wongal people of the Eora Nation as the traditional custodians of the country that I am recording from today. I recognise their continuing connection to the land and waters. I pay my respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to all First Nation people listening today. Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to episode 144 of the Powerful Content Podcast. I hope that you are well today. Now, we're heading into the pointy end of the year where things can get a little bit overwhelming and we can feel a bit frazzled. So I thought I'd share a topic today that you might like to explore when things quieten down a little bit. And that's all about AI and how you can use it, but still sound like you in your content. Now, I'm sure that you've probably come across social media posts and you can tell that they've been written by AI, right? They really sound that generic, a little robotic. They have no stories or no humanistic elements whatsoever that you can really relate to. It's this emotion that's missing. And they probably have one too many emojis as well. I know you know those posts. And it's these posts that I find put people like you off trying out AI at all for fear that this is what your content will actually sound like too. And I know that you don't want that. But I can assure you that with a few simple things to keep in mind, that you can use AI not only to sound like you, but to make your life a whole heap easier too. And just a side note here, when I use the term AI today, it refers to any system or any tool that you're using to access it. So whether it's Canva, whether it's ChatGPT, whether it's Descript, even Zoom has AI functionalities now. It all comes back to the same principles. And I also want to say that you don't have to use AI in the ways that I'm going to suggest today. And you don't even have to use AI at all if you don't feel like you want to. Really take what you need from this episode and implement it in a way that feels right for you. Okay, so before we dive into the practical stuff, let's just address some common fears and misconceptions about AI, because I feel like if you can identify any reservations that you have using AI, then this may help you to bring awareness to that and really overcome them more quickly. Now, the first one I hear all the time is that AI will absolutely replace my creativity. And the answer to this is it actually won't. AI doesn't have your experiences, your stories, your thought leadership, or your perspective unless you specifically tell it about them. But what AI can do is really take your initial ideas and help you shape them into something more meaningful for your audience more quickly. It can also help you take that one piece of content, like this podcast is a perfect example, and create so many other pieces of content from it. Like my emails and my social media posts all come from these podcasts. I want you to think of AI as your creative partner rather than replacement. It really provides that starting point, but you are absolutely 100% still in the driver's seat, and you always will be. Now, another objection I hear to using AI specifically for content is that it's too technical and complicated for me, and I don't get the results that I'm looking for. And I totally get this. Sometimes using a tech tool feels really much harder than not using one at all. But here's the thing, AI tools today are far more intuitive and far more user friendly than ever before. And this may be a little bit scary at first, but it also means that you don't have to be tech savvy to actually use them. Practice makes perfect, and it's definitely the case with AI. The more you use it, the more you understand the nuances and the more it understands you as well. And finally, the big one. The reason that I'm doing this podcast today is if I use AI, my content won't feel authentic. And I actually think that this is a valid concern, especially if you've been exposed to the average content that feels like it's been spat out by a robot. But here's the thing, AI doesn't ever replace you and your voice. You have a unique way of saying things, a unique tone, unique stories to tell. It's actually your job to take the content it helps you create and make it more personal, to infuse it with those stories and your values and your heart, basically. AI gives you a framework, whereas you add the soul. And I think that there is the crux of using AI to create that human centered content that sounds more like you. So now that we've kind of cleared up those objections, let's talk about how you can actually use AI to create human centered content that connects and converts. So not only starts a relationship with your ideal client, but takes them on that journey towards conversion. And what I'm about to explain to you is exactly how I use it for content in my business. And I don't know about you, but I think that my content still sounds like me. Okay, the first way is through idea generation. Now, AI can really help you brainstorm content ideas when you're stuck and when you feel like that content is just another thing on your to-do list. A blank screen is simply not your friend. I know, I understand it. I've been there. Now, if you've been hanging around me for a while, you know that I love talking about the 4 Ps of content consistency, and that is prepare, plan, produce, and process. So having all of the ideas out of your head and onto paper is such a huge time saver as you go throughout the year. It's something that I love to do at the beginning of every year. And this really forms part of that first P, the prepare phase of your content. So for me, every January, I redo my content idea mind map. And if you'd like me to step you through this, you can purchase my course, Unleash Your Content. The link is in the show notes. But if I'm feeling stuck, I'll put all of the ideas into AI together with my thought leadership and my ideal client details to help generate some new themes that I can base my content around each month. And then I'll use AI to take this a step further in terms of idea generation. The next step of the 4 Ps is to plan, and I plan out a whole year's worth of podcast content each January. So that's a minimum of about 30 solo episode ideas that I need to come up with. So deciding on my theme for each month, I may use AI to help me formulate some of the draft title ideas for the episodes and even some of the points that I'm going to discuss in each of those episodes. So there is absolutely no need to sit and look at a blank screen, getting continually frustrated. I encourage you to use AI to help you generate the ideas based on the foundations of who you serve and what you do. And that will help you create that heart-centered content that really connects with your ideal client. Now, the second way that I use AI is through creating drafts and research. So we've used AI to prepare and plan, and now we can use it to help us produce our content. So this could either be creating a draft for you to edit or to look at the specific grammar and flow of your content. so that it's easier to read or to listen to an existing piece of content. So AI can really help you summarize some really complex topics or provide that inspiration. And this inspiration could be based on trends in your industry, but please, please, please remember to fact check any information it provides because it can definitely go rogue. I think ChatGPT recognizes that it makes mistakes because when I asked it to give some examples of practical applications of AI with content, it actually told me to fact check it. So please don't take everything it tells you as the truth. Sometimes I use AI in this produce phase when I'm creating an outline for a podcast episode. So if I'm really stuck on where I'm going with an idea, I'll ask AI to propose an outline for me. And this really helps set out my episode more logically as well. And it provides more ideas on things that I may have forgotten I could include based on my thought leadership that it already knows. So using AI to produce your content is about having that starting point to help save you time and reduce the overwhelm as well. And remember here that we're always starting from the base point of you. It's your ideas and your thought leadership and your ideal client. So anything that you put into AI, you have the opportunity to edit, to add those stories, to add your values and your thought leadership as well. Okay, the third way is through reimagining your content. So the last P is process. And this is where the reimagination part of it comes in. And this would have to be, I would say, the number one way to save time. For me personally, AI helps take my podcast and it turns it into a transcription. It suggests audio snippets. It gives me suggested social media posts. It gives me a summary. It gives me the show notes. It gives me the outline of a blog as well. I also use it for suggested reels for Instagram and even questions that I can ask my audience based on the podcast topic. It literally cuts my creation time in half and allows me to put my content out in more places. So I guess now we know what may be stopping us from using AI and how we can implement it practically and simply in the content creation and publication process. I guess the question still remains here. How can we stay authentic to who we are and still feel like you when using AI? And it's really about using AI to support your unique voice, not replace it. I'm going to say that again. It's about using AI to support your unique voice, not replacing it. So the first step I think about when you want to use AI, but you still want to be authentic with your content is start with a clear intention. Before you even open AI, ask yourself, what do I want this piece of content to achieve? Whether it's to connect, to nurture, to convert, having a clear intention will really help guide the tone and the structure of your content. Now, we all know that AI is only as good as the instructions you give it. So make sure you know which direction you want to drive it first because sometimes it likes to go off-roading. The second step is really to know yourself. Now, AI might be able to give you a solid draft, but really it's just the bones. You bring the heart. AI can't be you. I've said it already in this episode and I'm going to say it again. AI can't be you, but it can use elements of you, like your core beliefs, your thought leadership, your message. All of these are a great starting point. They are all things that AI can't create for you. You really need to be clear on these first. Because when you know who you are and what you stand for, any content that it gives you can be tweaked quickly and easily. Things like your tone, sharing your stories or your anecdotes that reflect your experiences will really help personalize your content, bring that emotional connection, and help it remain true to who you are. Remember that AI can't replicate your life. This is what sets you apart. The next step is to add that layer of emotion that I just described. So one area that AI often falls short is in the emotional depth. It can really suggest ideas, write in a certain tone, but it doesn't truly feel, which is really quite interesting. But do you know what? You feel. So whilst AI attempts to add questions or statements that spark that reflection or can show empathy, only you know what it's truly like to be
in your ideal client's shoes. And this is where knowing your client journey can really help guide your content to tap into what your ideal client is thinking, feeling, and doing. My next suggestion about how to stay authentic using AI with your content is to be selective. Be selective with what AI gives you. Not everything AI generates will align with your values and voice. And don't be afraid to reject that, heavily edit parts that don't fit, and let AI know that this is the case. I think that a lot of people believe that what AI gives you is the right content to share, but it's not. The right content to share is content that comes from your heart. So make sure that you replace anything that doesn't feel genuine. And in this same vein, I thoroughly recommend to use AI to amplify, not replace. So AI really should be used to enhance your creative process, not override it or be it. So if a piece of content feels more like a computer wrote it than what you did, take a step back, take a deep breath, add in your voice, add your perspective, your thought leadership, and your intention. And a reminder here, your audience isn't looking for perfectly polished content. I know that we think this, but it's not true. They are looking for you. They want to see your heart, your perspective, your experience, and most importantly, your solutions. So AI can help you craft a better framework, but you know what? The real magic comes from the way that you fill that in. And lastly, I would say, remember who you're speaking to. You may think that this is probably the most important step in creating content with AI, knowing who your ideal client is, but I always believe that the focus on content creation should be you first. Having said this, only you know what resonates with the people that you are speaking to. So don't share something that only adds to the noise and the clutter out there. Just because you can share something doesn't mean that you should share something. And making it quick and easy doesn't mean that you should share more of it. Make it meaningful and make it purposeful. That's what will make your content truly powerful. So those things again were start with clear intentions. Make sure that you know yourself, know who you are and what you stand for. Add that layer of emotion, whether that's through stories or experiences. Be selective with what AI gives you. Use AI to amplify, not replace, and stay audience focused. Well, I hope that this episode has inspired you to give AI a try if you're not using it, or if you are already using it, to use it in a way that's more authentic with who you are and what you talk about. And as with anything, the more that you experiment, the more that you have a go, the more that you will discover what works and what doesn't work for you. So my advice is to just give it a try. And if you want to explore this idea about authenticity and AI in your content further, my good friend Melanie Campbell is about to release a resource that will help you use AI more authentically so it sounds more like you. You can find out more about this in the show notes, or you can join my membership, The Content Effect, where we're having conversations like this and where we explore authenticity in a way that feels good for big-hearted entrepreneurs like you. So head on to thecontenteffect.com.au/join to find out more. Talk soon.
Thanks so much for listening. That's it for another week. To get more powerful content in your life, make sure you're following along on socials. My handle is @meldbusiness. And just in case you're wondering, the groovy music for this podcast was created by Just Here on SoundCloud. I'd also be super grateful if you took a moment to rate and review this podcast so more amazing women like you can experience the power of content. And if you're like, hell Mel, stop talking, I'm ready to work with you now, here's how we can work some powerful content magic together. Firstly, come and join The Content Effect, my membership inspiring women with service-based businesses to ditch the content chaos and start creating stand-out content that gets you noticed and makes sales. You can join us by using the link in the show notes or just Google The Content Effect. The second way we can work together is via my one-on-one packages. We can create a sustainable content strategy or start to build out your client journey. It's up to you. Hop on over to meldbusinessservices.com.au/services to find out more. Until next time, have a beautiful week and embrace the power of your content.